There's a new editor-in-chief for Marvel Comics. His name is C.B. Cebulski, and it has come to light that for at least a year, he used a pen name called Akira Yoshida. Is this appropriate? Is this appropriation? Here's some background facts on what this all means for those of you who don't really read comics. Comic books, when you think about your traditional comic book superheroes, they're super white. The people who write them have been super white, but there's this giant influence of Japanese culture and manga throughout all of comic books, period. The comics that he used, that he wrote under the pseudonym for, those comics were very East Asian inspired. Also, there's claims that he was an editor at the time, and then he couldn't write as an editor, but he put on this super Japanese-y name and used that as a way to write these East Asian storylines. But there's another fact there, swimming out there, which is he did, during his time as an editor and talent scout, hire a lot of Asian writers who have since come to bat for him on Twitter. So what are our thoughts about this? 5 words or less.
My pen name, ... J.K. Rowling.
Marveling at his stupidity.
Don't write him off.
His fake name is real lame.
It's funny.
So yeah,
Akira.
Here's my favorite tweet about the whole thing. It's from SeanBaby.com, who wrote, so a white Marvel writer was a fake Japanese writer named Akira Yoshida. That's the name of the most popular anime with the last name of the Japanese X-Man. That's like naming yourself Cheeseburger Schwarzenegger to sound Japanese. And by the way, and he says, while on the subject, please call me Cheeseburger Schwarzenegger.
It is a pretty good analogy.
He did, so okay, he did great work though, yes?
Yeah, I mean, he was a working writer because I guess he was able to.
And he hired and he gave opportunity to people at
right. Here's another approach. Mayo Boy Wonder out there is cosplaying as someone ethnic via his name and stealing folks' blessing with his mediocre ass. And this is someone who goes by the name Clarkeisha Kent. She's a blurred, which is black nerd. Clarkeisha Kent, Clark Kent, black nerd. That's the term. That's the term. She uses it. And meanwhile, us folks with actual ethnic names make decisions daily to downplay that part of ourselves in order to live.
That's what I think is the big issue right here. I do think it is like a form of cultural appropriation where you're basically trying to capitalize on something on somebody else's culture to advance your own career, whereas in normal society, oftentimes you do have to downplay your culture within those sorts of cultural groups to advance your career. So he's basically sort of taking that and using his privilege to then advance himself. And there's a huge history of women and people of color who have had to change their names, you know what I mean, so that they could even write. And he is basically just sort of circumventing that, and that's not cool.
Yeah. Grace, thoughts?
I don't know. I think kind of two things can be true here. What I saw in this argument was that Twitter kind of backed into corners. And so there's one group of people that are like, but look at all these people he promoted, people that worked under him, people of color that worked under him were like, he promoted us, he really furthered our work and he used his position of power for good. I don't like that people are coming for him over this thing that he did for a year that he has since been really transparent about. I think that's a good thing about that. And then on the other converse side of things, I think Clarkeisha Kent makes a really good argument for it, where she's talking about look, I have to, people have to change their names on resumes to just even get that job interview. So we need to be talking about, how we deal with ethnic names. I don't know if I'm using all the right words, but how we deal with names that are not Western and how we internalize that when it comes to giving opportunities. But I think both conversations should exist. What I don't like is how people got backed into corners and only wrong, only bad, because you can't, I don't think that this guy doing something that can be viewed as problematic should diminish the very good work that he did when he used that to have the power. That's what you would hope for.
But I think that goes for everybody. I think we have a trend in our current society, and especially on Twitter, that paints everything as so black and white. And that's not the case. People can do really, really awful things and also have done really, really great things. I mean, we saw that with Weinstein, like the money that he spent to advance women in film and things like that, but also did awful things to women. Like there's gray area in every single story, and I think we need to remember that when we're providing judgment to these kinds of stories. So I think he could have, raised, the voices of people of color and helped them in their careers, but also did something that is a little messed up.
Here's his,
I'm listening to both of you because I was of the two, Grace, you said 2 conversations on Twitter. I was leaning towards a conversation of, I think that he did raise people, he did give opportunity. And not saying that he was like, the great white hope or anything like that, but if he was transparent and he did do good hand, I understand where you're coming from though too. It's like, okay, well, you shouldn't, as Clarkeisha Kent said, like I have to downplay, I mean, she's a blur, I've never heard that before, but she had to downplay what her real name was just to get a resume through the door. I understand that struggle as well. So it's just, it's like, where do you lie? I think
here's the thing, is while it's not a black and white world, and while good people can have done bad things, and that's kind of on a spectrum of like how you classify them, you can't kind of be the editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics. That is a binary system where like you're either we're okay enough with it where you are chief editor of Marvel Comics, or we're not okay with this, so you can't be the head of Marvel Comics. So which is it? Should he be Marvel Comics editor-in-chief, replacing, this long series of editors-in-chief to become the person who is in charge? It's like him and Joe Quesada make the decisions over what happens in Marvel Comics. The buck stops with him, and when he makes statements like this, here's his statement saying, "I stopped writing under the pseudonym Akira Yoshida after about a year. It wasn't transparent, but it taught me a lot about writing, communication, and pressure. I was young and naive and had a lot to learn back then, but this is all old news and that has been dealt with. And now as Marvel's new editor-in-chief, I'm turning a new page and I'm excited to start sharing all my Marvel experiences with up and coming talent around the globe." Should this stop him from being editor-in-chief?
Well, I think that's a conversation. That's what people will have an issue with Lindsay, on your point, Hannah, about him like using appropriating to get for his own personal gain. I think that if he wasn't truthful, I think when you're in a position of power, it's the same thing we're seeing with all these sexual assault allegations. I know it's a different story, but you should be as transparent, as truthful as you can. So if I was the powers that be at Marvel and Disney, and this guy was coming forward to be in a power position, I would look at everything he's done and really kind of weigh it with a clear mind. Because no, I don't think he should. If he was lying per se.
It's also, this is the last thing, is there has been a major initiative lately in Marvel Comics to emphasize diversity. Like Iron Man's a black girl now, or has been. There's a female Thor. Like Captain Marvel is, I think, is it Captain Marvel's Pakistani woman? Like Ms. Marvel is Pakistani, or they've been doing a lot of initiatives. Then there was a pushback where Marvel said, we're not selling as much of those comics. And then there was a response to that saying, yeah, but they're still being written by white dudes. And all the ways you're using the cultural identity of your characters is like really basic. And it's not the kind of intense, specific kind of cultural identity that you're getting out of like the Ta-Nehisi Coates, I don't know how to say her name, but the Coates version of the Black Panther, which was a very high selling thing. And so they're learning as they go along, when step one was every superhero is a white dude, up until today where they are actively trying. So I think they're learning as they go. It is too late really to learn about like cultural diversity in America, but if you haven't gotten there yet, I think this guy, give him a shot, who knows, but make sure that you're not making the same mistakes over and over again. All right, that's all the time we have on this story. What do you think? Let us know in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next time on Pop Trigger.